Hi there, and welcome to the Crazyhouse World Championship. This is the candidates, and we are in the second round. I think this is the second round. Let's check the schedule. It's now, which round is this? This is blitzbullet versus where do we have it? Margaret blitzbullet versus littleplotkin. This is from round 10 actually. So round 10. Just have to make some adjustments here. Like that. And also here. And blitzbullet and littleplotkin are the two rating favorites, I think, to take the top two spots in the candidates. But in the first round, actually blitzbullet lost big. Rather surprisingly, he lost to Legion Destroyer 7-3. So the candidates are off to a very interesting start here. Littleplotkin won his first match, but only with a very narrow margin, 5.5, 4.5 versus Suanet. Very tough match, could have ended either way. And blitzbullet needs a win in this match, or he could very well be out of the race for the first place. The winner of the candidates earns the right to challenge the reigning champion Katask. But rumor has it that Katask won't be defending the World Championship title, and in that case the top two spots will fight it out for the World Championship title. I see that blitzbullet is he online? Blitzbullet is online and littleplotkin is online, and the players are seated. As you can see, when this stops bugging, is that blitzbullet has a firm lead in their mutual encounters, 221.5 versus 166.5. And also it seems as if he has won more games of their 20 or so latest encounters. But I expect a very tough match here. This could also go either way, but I'm reckoning blitzbullet is back with a vengeance in this match. He wasn't playing at his best in the first round. So he's using his pet line, the fianchetto d4, d5 setup. And littleplotkin is just copying so far. But as you all probably know, you can't keep copying the whole game. So littleplotkin deviates a little bit here, putting his bishop on e6 rather than f5. Although actually this placement of this bishop makes a little more sense to me than this, because it's a bit vulnerable on e6. For instance, if the knight goes to g5, I think the bishop needs to move. Otherwise the pawn structure would be corrupted. Hi there, I suppose it's Legion Destroyer, and hi to everybody watching the game. See, there are some strong players in the chat. So do you have any predictions for the outcome of this match? queen c1 was hitting the h6 pawn, but he quickly protected the pawn with king h7. So we see a pseudo sacrifice here on h6. And I wonder if he's contemplating queen takes. Well, the other match, there's another match taking place at the same time, SpinalTap versus pknm. And no, I won't be covering that match. So very interesting positional queen sacrifice here on h6. And he didn't even bother to put the pawn on g5. So where is the compensation now? This hits h3. So you need to be careful not to get carried away here, picking up pawns on a7, because black will destroy the white castle then. So yeah, I don't know. I see some really strong players here, actually. So maybe you're actually lowering the average, but you don't need to feel embarrassed by that. Yeah, I wish the matches were played at different times. I would definitely follow my fellow Swedish compatriot. I can't even say the word. Giving up some more material, but now at least there are some threats here down the c file. And I think white was hoping to take with the rook here and then with the knight. And what if you take with the pawn here? What is the point? So a lot of material hanging here. But maybe white can get to the rook by taking on a7. But is there any danger? Oh, he's trying to lure the queen away from the defense here of f6. When there's actually, let's say rook takes, queen takes. I think maybe knight at g5, followed by knight f6 check. Looks like, yeah, it's mate. But was there some reason why I didn't take here? Yeah, probably. And now white is threatening to take here, and the same mechanism. Knight check, rook mate. So, actually this is starting to get a bit dangerous for black. I don't see an immediate way to get to the white king. So, what after knight e2 check? Now what? Yeah, maybe he should have, instead of taking on c7, which just looks greedy, he should have started his own attack. Absolutely. That was just greedy. Not only do you waste the tempo, but you also weaken the last rank. And you notice he under-promoted to get it with check. And oh, he doesn't have a pawn here. That's a problem. protecting g3, hoping to pick up a pawn for g7. But white is out of resources here, so yeah, he captures with the knight, threatening to take with check here. And let's say if the rook leaves, maybe you just play knight f1 check anyway, followed by pawn at g3. So this looks good for black now, all of a sudden. I wonder if he plays knight f1. So a lot of threats here, but now this comes with check. You can pick up more pieces if you like, but apparently it's found something. Queen check, knight takes, and mate. Wow, nice clinical finish there by blitzbullet. And where was the game? It's there. I wonder, how is this? So the computer doesn't like the queen sacrifice. Yeah, it was a bit speculative, I suppose. But as you notice here, knight at e2, it's much faster. But still, black is doing fine. And should be winning here. It's made in 6. Where are we even? Yeah, knight f1 check, just as I mentioned. Knight f1 is much better, because this gives the white king one more square. Rather unnecessarily, but still it's minus 63. But look, that gave away the crucial pawn. And all of a sudden, white is winning. That could have been littleplotkin's game. Let's see how this game starts. Well, one of the things with blitzbullet is that I don't quite like his black openings. I think there are very much a weakness. But he plays them well. And I think this is the right way to handle this opening. Quickly going for the throat. This could be very, very difficult for black. How is bishop e5? Queen takes here looks too optimistic. He prefers to put the bishop here instead. And that maybe the other bishop go to g5 instead. The threat is probably just knight h5, discovered check, and then pick up the queen. And if you go to, say, g8, maybe white would play bishop g5, maybe pick up a pawn, put it on g7. Probably black won't get the time to put his pieces, his extra pieces, on the board. Yeah, bishop e5 looked very strong also. But maybe there's an idea here, keeping the bishops connected also. So this wins the queen. And the black queen sacrifice halted the white attack slightly, but how to defend this? I mean, if you play knight at g8, there is queen e8 mate. No, it's not mate, but almost. Queen, king d6. And you can probably just take on f6 and take the rook and everything. So you defend it from e4 instead. But now you have to calculate stuff like knight at f5. Let's say take, queen e7. You can pick up the knight. He goes for the rook instead. So just remember, this is a promoted pawn, and whenever black takes it, if he gets the chance, it's a pawn again. Blitzbullet is a remarkable defender, though. Oh, that's interesting to know. Thank you, Legion Destroyer. Maybe I get the chance to cover the pknm match as well. White needs something to finish black here. Let's say a knight or a bishop or something. So this covers this exit and also prepares queen c8. A slow move, but yeah, maybe it was better to pick up the knight. Littleplotkin trying to get momentum here, and he indeed has found a very cute finish. Nice there, 1-1. I wonder if there were any chances of survival in the end. Here, clearly black missed the white idea with two rooks and a knight in hand, but let's say queen at f8, yeah, would have kept the game alive. But this was a mate in 3. So what happens here? What is this? This just looks like a pre-move blunder. Because I think the idea is bishop takes, queen takes, knight. No, let's check. And what is this? So black, because if you get the time to do it, you can sack the queen for a bishop and then get back the piece with a bishop check. But here black got a queen and a pawn for just a knight. This isn't good for white, surely. Although he does handle whatever little compensation he has nicely so far. But look at the black forces waiting to get into the game. White probably wants to play bishop takes d6 and then pawn e5, something like that. Maybe even now, bishop takes pawn here. White needs to keep the momentum going because otherwise black will just swarm the board with the pieces, and he's up a lot on material. I was a little bit surprised he didn't go for the bishop takes d6. Oh well. Is it hard to defend f5? Well, if you defend it with the queen, let's say, you can simply take, and then queen takes, and bishop g4. So I suppose you can take on f5 now, if you like. And notice that black doesn't trade. He just wants to keep as many pieces on the board as possible, which is wise. In chess, when you're up on material, you should normally trade, but in Crazyhouse, it's quite often the other way around. Instead, you should just try to put all the pieces on the board and start playing chess instead. Well, white is safe, but maybe not forever. I mean, if you can get a black rook to g8, maybe a knight to h5, and then start getting at the white king. A bishop here looks nice. And he didn't even stop to think about taking the queen here, which is kind of odd because, I mean, it's not like black is checkmating or anything if you take on c7. Of course, I think black is better anyway, but... Okay, so he got back the queen, which is nice. And the question now is, who benefits from a queen trade? I think the white idea is to check with the knight here, and then under-promote, and then infiltrate on c7 with the queen. Something like that. Obviously you can check on h2 and then take with check here, but simply interpose it with a bishop. Looks like white is safe, and maybe blitzbullet is a god after all. Seems like littleplotkin played a bit. He was a bit sloppy there for a while. And what about knight b8 now? What about knight b8? Isn't that good? I mean, let's say you can even, can you, no queen check here, but where is the black attack here? I just don't see it. As soon as the checks stop, black is just doomed here. Very strange. Knight at b6 and checkmate. Wow, what a strange game. Blitzbullet taking the lead 2-1, and we have to look at how bad was this position. A lot of strange things going on here. And this is just bad now after knight b4. But this didn't make it any better. Still, it's a game. It's just -4. Bishop, knight takes f5. Yeah, very interesting. But what is this? Actually, taking on g3 is the strongest move. And all of a sudden, white is just much, much better. Really strange. Okay, let's get back to the game. He is insisting on playing b6, but this is slightly different because he tucked the bishop away here on g6. But I'm wondering, can you grab a pawn here somewhere and put it on b7 maybe? I guess not. Oh, we're not even alive here. Oh, this is looking scary for black. So I suppose the idea is to take on f5 if the king retreats. But you don't necessarily need to take on f5. You could, for instance, play maybe bishop h5. But then again, maybe the queen just takes. And keep in mind that white only has a knight and 2 pawns in hand. Yeah, as Legion Destroyer notices that here the fianchetto system it's just safe. So if you take, there is knight at g5 check. And what is white waiting for? Knight at g5. And unless I'm blind here, I think this is starting to look good for pawn f7. You can take here, take on d8. Wow. Picking up a pawn, an extra pawn for the attack, and now there are just too many strong threats. I suppose you need to take here with the knight, but it's over after queen at d7. Luring the white queen away, but just buying some time here. White is picking up pieces with check. And you can't hide here because of queen a8 followed by pawn b7, so you need to go out on the board again. And there's just a flurry of punches here. Black is defenseless. Yeah, and blitzbullet just resigns. He needs to find some other opening, I think. Littleplotkin is just too strong at punishing this, but seems as if black was doing okay here. Yeah. King f8 here is better. Yeah, just starve white. Don't trade, just starve him. And here, yeah, you don't have to take f5, but apparently knight h4 was good. But after this, yeah, the white attack is just too strong. So what happens here? Yet another fianchetto, but this time he's hurrying to castle. No more knight b4 takes c2 mishaps. And rather than playing h3 here, when black is pushing the h-pawn, maybe this is better, but leaving some holes here on the light squares. Leaving the d4 pawn unprotected. What's this? This looks like shite. Sorry, but was there a pre-move too many? Once again, looking to get some compensation by giving up the queen. And what a strange sequence there. Trades. So threatening mate, but that's easily covered by a bishop, for instance. And actually white has some compensation here, I think. Can you find the right moves? Although pawn at f3 is really annoying. So do you take here, and what do you take with then? Do you take with a rook maybe? Another pawn and take. Give up the rook for 2 pawns just to make the... But what's this? Can you take here maybe? My idea is I want a pawn so I can play pawn at c6 check first before the king runs to the c8 square. I would have loved to play pawn at c6, pawn takes, and then knight c5 check. Because now it's more difficult to get to the black king. Once it's on c8, it's not as easy. And now he wasted a perfectly good bishop here instead of having the bishop for b7. Of course, white is threatening mate here. Pawn at b7, knight at a6, but it's quite easy to defend b7. So maybe pawn at b7, pawn at a6, rook b8, take, knight takes, and then you get the chance to maybe play pawn at f3 or pawn at h3. So I suppose hoping to give up the queen on b7. Pawn at b7, take, knight takes, and then pawn somewhere here. Reckoning that white is slower. But it's a shame to waste the queen when you want to mate somewhere here with the queen. So moving the knight away from e2 actually let go of the protection of g3. So that's why black captured on h4. If pawn takes, you have knight at g3 check, which looks strong. And black is having a hard time deciding on whether to attack on the dark squares or the light squares. So it looks like the white king is on the run here. Amazing. The white king is running away. And look at the clock. Littleplotkin. Oh, knight at a6. And white can calmly just pick up the bishop here. Bishop at c8 seals the black's fate. And there's a queen check coming here if the rook takes. But now white has two queens in hand, and that's at least one too many. He can just waste one here, and knight takes, queen takes. Checkmate. Wow, he's quite the fighter, blitzbullet. And black is clearly better after h4. Yeah, that's way too provocative. And this isn't easy. Black just played natural moves and white is clearly worse. But somewhere here, black just misplayed it. So knight e4 is the best move. And white should have taken h8. Oh, this is a mess. I just want to have one quick look at I was thinking, yeah, bishop h4 makes sense also. I was thinking this move and then, but maybe this is too slow. No, actually, look at this. The computer quickly changes his mind. So apparently this is good for at least a draw for white. But this was better, apparently. No, it wasn't. Silly computer can't make up his mind, but queen at b5 was clearly bad. And I don't know why I didn't just check on b7, yeah, why not? And did black miss something here? Yeah, he did, apparently. Knight h3, that wasn't easy to find. But let's go back to the game. Sorry, I just got carried away there. Blitzbullet changing to e5 instead. Realizing that b6 wasn't good enough. Sacrificing a pawn here in the opening for piece activity. And this little check, typical picking up the pawn. And I have to say, black should be doing fine here. I'm a bit surprised he didn't look at the bishop sack here on f2 just to disrupt the white development. But this is nice, I think, for black. Black has 3 pawns in hand. He can start building here on the dark squares maybe. Also, he might consider taking here and checking on b6. You see that littleplotkin is way down on time. And this open up the e file, maybe for a queen or rook or a queen. And he needs to be careful so there's no discovered attack somehow when the queen just drops. So where to put all those pawns? Yeah, just start attacking the white king here. So pawn takes, maybe pawn to f2. This is strange. Why allow a move like this? Littleplotkin with little time here. And little hope as well. I suppose you can even take on h7. Probably threatening pawn at e2. And look at this, bishop to a6, picking up the queen, could be a potential threat as well. And maybe just queen takes. Does it win? So bishop at g4, knight here takes. Oh, this check protects f7. Probably bishop at g4 now. And blitzbullet having all the time in the world. But there is a threat here. Rook takes, pawn g7. And king takes, pawn f6. You need to be careful here. You need to be a little bit careful. And why didn't he take on h6? Yeah, you can hide on g8 with the king. So now everything seems in order for black. There are a few checks left, but with only pawns in hand, there's no hope for white. And you can just take with the bishop here, if you like. Bishop takes, pawn takes here, pawn. Or did I overlook something? Yeah, there's a... Oh, never mind. So you could... What can you do here? Just let him waste his pawns, I suppose. No pawns in hand anymore. Rook check here should do it. Rook takes, pawn takes. No, you can't move the knight, sorry. Maybe take twice on d3 then. Oh, here comes the pawns. Under promotion, keeping the checks going. So much material, it has to end with mate. 4-2, blitzbullet. And indeed, the opening was a success for black. This is just a great position for black. And I was thinking maybe even take here. Yeah, that looks very strong as well. And if you take here, how is this? Oh, you can hide on G6. Wow, okay. So, never mind. Let's go back. And why does littleplotkin switch openings here? That doesn't make any sense. He's got very good positions out of the opening. Sorry, and I think blitzbullet already won that game. And that's the typical Levenfish trap from the Sicilian Dragon, not E6, with the pin here. Checkmate. Ouch. So 5-2 blitzbullet, and this is the thing with blitzbullet. He is quite possibly the only player in this field, in the candidates, that's capable of winning big. And when saying winning big, I mean like 9-1 or even 10-0 on a good day. And black is playing his favorite fianchetto. For some reason I lost sound from the board, but I hope you can follow the game anyway. Littleplotkin playing really fast here, but perhaps, I don't know if he's a bit sloppy. He's pushing forward, but giving up a lot of material on the way. And in case of pawn at G5, maybe the black king can just take. Although I'm not quite sure. It looks dangerous though, everything here. Oh, there came the sound back. I wonder who benefits from the trade of rooks. Maybe even queen takes, yeah, because then there's no pin. Okay. Nice find there. And a rook is very strong here. If black can get the chance to put a rook here on the last rank. The problem is white has played a3, so castling long will allow pawn at a2 with the deadly threat of rook at b1. So here comes the pin, and white is ready to give up the queen for a rook. But surely this is good for black. Black has a lot of material here, but he needs to find the time to put it on the board. And that could be somewhat problematic. So obviously taking with the bishop here wants some material, but white preferred to go for g6, but the king looks safe here. Nice move, providing cover here for the black king, hitting weak spots in the white position, building an active defense here on g4. Bishop at bishop takes f5. Yeah, here he could have taken f5, I suppose. Although maybe he was afraid of rook takes f6. I'm not sure. And I suppose you just pick up the queen here and start running back with the king. Or maybe this is even a safe hiding place. Pawn at a2 is the move. And now there's mate queen here and something here. 6-2, blitzbullet, very impressive. He's winning this match, and judging by the last few games, I wouldn't be surprised if blitzbullet wins 8-2, which would be a very strong result. And I think littleplotkin lost his cool a bit here in this match, because he's been playing really well, getting good position as black. Why switch to inferior openings? Just doesn't make sense. And for a chess player, trading a central pawn against a wing pawn might seem like a strange decision, but you also need to realize that there's a semi-open e file that white quickly can access if he castles short. Good evening, Crazyhouse fan. So if you take here with the queen, you have knight c7 check, and it's all over. You might be right, Crazyhouse fan. Checkmate. And I just, when I read between the lines here, I think littleplotkin is somewhat punishing himself. Although I should mention that this isn't a super bad opening. Playing for the fool's mate, because white does get some compensation here. And don't forget to subscribe, my friends. I have exactly 0 subscribers. So if you subscribe, you will be my first one. That is, if you like to watch my streams, Crazyhouse streams, why not subscribe? Maybe the knight is going in this direction just to cover the squares here. But after white takes here, pawn at h6 could be somewhat problematic. Black is probably preparing his own piece sacrifice here. Maybe it's time to castle short. Black is, one is not afraid of bishop takes. But that was maybe not the most active square for a pawn. I would probably have waited, got rid of the bishop, and then gone for pawn at h6 instead. But this is tricky, because if the king goes here, you can just take c7, and this is starting to look really good for white. Well, I'm just kidding about the hot dogs and everything. In case you don't know, a hot dog at IKEA costs 5 Swedish crowns, which is like 50 cents or half a quid or whatever, half a euro. And I got my first payout. After 1 year of streaming, I got $50. Yay. But I'm not doing this for the money. So obviously black is having huge problems here. Huge problems. What is up on material, and black is having the second best position on the board. So one option here is to take on h6 and under promote. Check. Your king is in check. And now it's mate. And those of you who predicted 7-3, you were completely right. blitzbullet back on track. Congratulations to blitzbullet. he will certainly fight for the first place. Yeah, congratulations, Legion Destroyer. Does anyone know if the other match has started playing? pknm, SpinalTap. Let's have a quick look. Oh, pknm is in the lead 3-1. Let's have a look. I can't stop watching this, can I? So this is quite an upset. SpinalTap, dangerous player. pknm, sort of a surprise, making it all the way to the finals, the candidates. pknm, my fellow Swede, a bit passive but very solid, and a great defender with a great positional feel. Black looking to take here, take on e3. It would seem as if one, two, three, four. What is up a pawn, isn't he? 3, 4. Yeah. Well, not now, but so this is dangerous. Black shouldn't have allowed this because now the bishop on h6 is hanging. Ouch. I wonder if this was the best. I was looking at rook at g8 and then take f7 and pick up the queen. This is super sharp. And these knights, although very close to the black king, they aren't hurting the black king at all. They're far away from the king in terms of checking. So actually black is on a vicious attack here. They're sort of protecting the black king. So what to do? And this can't be good. Take here, yeah, pawn g3. This should be over. Pawn check. Pawn promotes. Checkmate. 4-1 pknm. Very strong finish there. And pknm, he likes to push the d4 pawn and just relax. Get the ball going. He goes for the symmetrical lines. And he likes to have a pawn center where he takes with the c pawn. Taking on g6 was rather surprising for me because it opens up the h file. And there's a possible threat of taking and pawn e5, maybe. And simply f3 should do it. f3, and if the bishop retreats, you just take, don't you? Bishop e4 was a slightly odd decision, I think. Now maybe take with the knight, just to get some coordination here on the second rank. Covering important squares. Maybe put the queen in front of your king. I like having my queen in front of my king in these positions, so you can castle either way, and also the queen covers the second rank and can go either way on the board. And I suppose it's time to take on f6. And sometimes you can just take twice on d5 as well. Although look out for knight at g2 followed by knight takes e3, and the white king is in danger. So is this the time to take on f6 maybe? Pawn takes, knight takes d5, knight takes. You could maybe throw in pawn at c7 also, just to take on d5 and threaten the queen. But one interesting threat here is pawn at g7, rook here, pawn at e7. When the knight takes, there's actually a mate on f6. And should the king go in this direction? I think so. But also this is tempting. This is why I thought maybe we should go in this direction. pknm is low on time, but his king is reaching a, I was about to say a safe haven, but it's not safe at all. Maybe pawn c3. Now it's relatively safe though. White is trying to get close to the black king. He can pick up this with check, although now rook at c1 could be a huge problem. But maybe knight at c5. Yeah. This should be winning, shouldn't it? King goes here. Now at least knight check is at least a draw. But uh-oh. White messed it up. He could have gone back and forth with the knight. So now the black king will reach safety, and black threats are just too big in this position. All those queens in hand will hurt white, I'm sure. But look, let's have a look there, because pknm had at least a draw, I think. And here he's clearly better out of the opening. Keeping that grip. Maybe taking on e5 first, just to get pawns here for infiltration. But this is good. Pawn at g7 is much stronger, apparently. And then knight takes d5. Okay. So king f1. And now it's starting to get dangerous. And as I said, pawn at c3, typical way to crack the position open. Because now the game turns. And there's even a mate in 5, starting with knight at c5 and then picking up the queen. Yeah. So there's at least a draw. So you just go for the draw until you find something. And now simply pick up the bishop. Yeah, looks easy enough. Black doesn't have a knight, so rook check here, just take and take. Okay, let's get back to the game. pknm in the lead 4-2. And what was the opening? It's d4, d5. Just classical Crazyhouse here. G5 is gutsy, but why not? And follow up by with castling short is surely gutsy. Can you push the E pawn? So white probably wants to take C6, take D6, and then get a grip on the dark squares. And that works now as well. Take here, because if white takes here, you can take with the rook on D6. That should be excellent compensation for white. Super annoying position here for black. Getting kicked around. But what to do? You can't just ignore the bishop on D6 either. And if the queen abandons E7, there is knight at E7 mate, so you need to protect the E7 square. But maybe something here and something there, and how to even keep this queen in the game. But this was perhaps not the strongest move. Why waste the knight? A more natural move here would be knight G3, threatening the knight here. Knight takes and then open up the F file maybe. So we play knight G3 now instead, but yeah, looks good for white. Nice to see the big crowd. Looks like SpinalTap will win this game as well. And this is a bad sign for black. Putting a knight on G7 to defend yourself. That's surely not the best square on the board for a black knight. But what to do? Black is very passive. And difficult to find a spot here for the queen, because if you go here, there's a knight fork here possibly. So this is probably the only square. And I think he will give up the queen here pretty soon just to get out of misery. But he didn't. So I suspect knight E7 check. Just pick up the queen. And it would have been better to take on D6, deflecting this bishop then. This is a worse version of the queen sack. So now black is... Why didn't he just cut off the bishop? Like rook at D6 or something. Oh well. White will win this game. Just put all the pieces on the last rank and it's over. Queen here or here. just hopeless for black. Queen at a8 or c8. And mate in the next move, 4-3 pknm. So let's see what it can do with the white pieces. It got a good position out of the opening the last game. Lots of options here for white. He could even let black take on f4. Or you could retreat to g3. Maybe bishop at g4. The idea being take on d5 and then taking on f5, or the other way around, taking and then taking d5. So this is obviously threatening the same thing. And this is better because now black doesn't have bishop at e4. So he goes for some sort of piece pseudo sacrifice. Which I have to say looks good for black. This is annoying. Because d4 is weak. And this is quite the pawn wall. Black will probably take here, and then if the queen takes, you take on d4. So looking good for black here. Looking really good, I suppose, because pknm isn't moving at all. This is probably the most sensible reply. Note that sometimes you can even take here on c2. Queen takes, knight takes here, you take on e4, and you start playing knight at g5, just grabbing pieces for your zombie army. So if the knight takes, probably bishop at f5, hitting c2, hitting h3. So white actually decides to take with a pawn, but isn't this good now? Take here, queen takes, knight takes, d4. I still like this idea. Take, knight takes. Oh well. Maybe you can even take on f3 here. Or you just take on f5. So White has huge problems here with his d4 pawn. Trying to figure out a way to get rid of that problem. And maybe he's solved it now. Maybe he's solved it. Temporarily, at least. Because now bishop takes h3 is probably incoming. Pawn takes and knight at f3. Or knight takes d4 or some combination of these moves. And you can probably just take here. Pawn takes, pawn at g2. This is a very, very passive defensive setup. So black switches to chess. And chess-wise, black is doing super duper well. Just look at this like a chess position where black is holding a pawn in hand. And you can see for yourselves that white is having a pawn in hand as well, but he's so passive. So a huge advantage here for black. And you maybe knight e5, just point your pieces in the direction of the white king. Hi there. Very natural continuation. I suppose there wasn't really any need to get the bishop at f3 with check though. Okay, so this is the idea. White is still alive here, although just barely. But pknm is a very tenacious defender. He's not dead until he's really, really dead, but that moment is coming pretty soon, I think. Yeah, queen g2 mate. So it's 4-4. Quite the comeback here by SpinalTap. Two more games. Who will win this? And I'm a bit surprised that he, game after game, gives his opponent this pawn setup, which I personally like to have whenever I play d4. That's not often, but I like the extra control here in the center, and also the semi-open C file. Which gives the queen's rook a purpose. It's harder to find a purpose for this black rook. Hi there, all of you new chatters. Getting out of the pin and trying to avoid any pawn weaknesses, because if you play the pawn here, maybe white can trade and play knight f4. I'm not sure. E6 might prove a bit weak then. I would immediately take with the queen. And the question is, do you take on d6, play knight f4 maybe? And why is this window going back and forth? Looks like maybe a super slight edge for white here. Slightly ahead when it comes to development. Might be an issue here with knight takes d5. So black has to tread carefully. Possibly putting a bishop on h6 maybe. Good night to you too. Long think there by pknm. Is he perhaps looking to just make a positional sacrifice here just to weaken the light squares, or what is he up to? Let's say a3. Where does the knight go? Surely it's not going back. That wouldn't make any sense. But does he have enough after knight takes, and maybe even knight takes d3 or queen takes? Yeah, I like queen takes better. So white defends d3. Surely now is the time to put some bishops on the board. Yeah, of course. Bishop at h6. And now you can play bishop at f5 as well. Hitting the knight. And suddenly I'm starting to like black actually. Rook c8. And he's playing g5 again. That little... But actually, if you push the f-pawn, there won't be any weaknesses anymore. And you can even push it 2 steps forward, maybe. Although e5 is slightly weak then. Maybe black can continue running the f-pawn up the board. And this is just bad. I don't like it at all. 1 square missing for the white king. And a super passive position. Of course it's attacking d5, but come on. This is a bit dangerous also because it weakens f6. But maybe they're both a bit tired now. I can't blame them. So black quickly getting rid of this, just mending the weaknesses here around the king. And maybe g4 is coming. Because if the pawn takes, you have knight h3 possibly. This is starting to look strong for black. Great pressure here on the dark squares. d4 also weak. Very easy to play for black. How nice of you, Swords, to love chess. And both players are down to the last few seconds here. Mistake by black. He needs to sacrifice his queen. But maybe he still has the better position here. It's almost impossible to comment on this. I have a feeling that black is doing fine here, but actually white managed to get rid of his light square bishop in the corner now, so looks unclear. Material wise it's equal now, I think. Pawn e3 probably. Two queens in hand. Why not waste one? Threatening to take on f2 possibly. They're just down to increment. And that's funny, allowing d1 queen. And this is even more funny because this allows mate probably. I mean, queen check on d1. You missed a forced mate there. But since the black king is safe, white resigns. Let me just show you the forced mate there that pknm missed. It was doing very well here up until somewhere around here. Yeah, he allowed the capture on f6 when h6 is hanging. So suddenly white was better for a little while, but here it's totally unclear. And here, just take f1 and bishop d3, queen at d1 is the correct move here. And if you put something heavy here, you just take with the queen here and rook at f1 mate. That's so nice to hear, Source. Please donate 100. Take your granny's money and give it to me instead. pknm in the lead, 5-4 going into the last game. And we've seen this before. He captured on g6. And I wonder, knight here, if the knight takes here, you need to take with the f pawn, which is slightly annoying. But maybe queen e2 then could justify the knight move to f4. And this is sort of why I don't like capturing on g6, because it gives black some opportunities on the h file. And where's this knight going now? All the squares are occupied. Just looks a bit superfluous, this knight. So maybe after the pawn takes, the knight takes, it can find its way out of e2. Because e2 is a scary square. All of a sudden, if black gets his hands on the knight, he can play pawn here, knight, checkmate. And is this really a threat? Maybe you just develop. Oh, that's easy. 1000 to the Barncancerfonden. Of course. Black seems to be controlling the game at the moment. You don't really want to play c3 because it creates more weaknesses. And after having played rook g1, surely the white king is heading towards the queen side. Maybe bishop at d5 was a good move, hitting this, but also hitting the g-pawn. So if white protects it, let's say with the bishop, you can play maybe pawn at f5. Run car, snow, pen or pencil, depending on if it's a blyertspenna or a black penna. So white is having problems getting squares for his pieces. Pawn at f4, but then knight at b5. So maybe this wasn't a good idea after all, because capturing here comes with check. Maybe white is turning the tables now. Yeah, just pick this up. Don't waste any more time. So probably just take. I'll just leave it. White using his extra pawn now. Actually has 2 extra pawns, but black has an extra piece. This is a funny knight. Controlling e4. So, nasty threats here coming. The white king will need to departure. I wonder why I didn't play pawn at e7. So it could take on d6 now. And this knight is going in this direction. Although there's a bishop fork picking up the knight. And why didn't it just pick up the free knight? Well, I suppose maybe he didn't see it. But here comes another chance. Take here, bishop e4, pick up the free knight. Tremendous pressure here on d3 and on the clock. The position starting to look very nasty for white. And capturing on d3 is the equivalent of resigning. Where is the forced mate? Opening up for the queen here, so rook at a4. 5-5. Well, that just makes a lot of sense, I think, after a well-fought and hard-fought match. So I say congratulations to both players in this match, and congratulations to the audience who has a ton of great matches coming up here in the near future. And tomorrow, pknm versus Legion Destroyer. Maybe I will be able to broadcast that. And on Thursday, I will probably be able to stream littleplotkin versus pknm, but not Mugwort versus Legion Destroyer. But there's a lot of buts there. But Jan Lee, I think Jan Lee will stream Mugwort versus Legion Destroyer. And on Saturday, Zixon enters this tournament versus Mugwort. Thank you so much, Source. And thank you for watching. everybody. I will try to find something interesting to raid. Hang on. This is mugwort. He can use a few more viewers. Poor little guy. And see you again soon.